All right, we are back. Welcome back to the Late Show. This is your host, Young Brando, and I have my distinguished friend, Ali Reza, our very own Squatch Box, otherwise known as Squat Box, otherwise
Squat
known
box.
as, what was it? What else is Swatch Box?
Squash.
Um, yeah.
Squash box. So yeah, I'm gonna have to change it again because this is getting out of hand.
Well, what was it changed from, if you
It
don't
was just
mind?
watch Sasquatch before, and I was
Okay.
joking about because my wrist is big and the watch box. Right, I was just gonna call it the Squatch box. And then it became Squash box. And the thing is people couldn't say watch Sasquatch either.
Right.
Right. So
I
it's
mean,
like I don't know.
it's kind of like a tongue twister if you think about it. So,
Well, it was meant to be a little bit, but I didn't think it was that bloody hard. It turns out it's just damn near impossible for some people.
hey, I mean, you know, Oxley stayed high, right? That's the
Yeah.
inside joke. So I wanted to actually talk about a little bit of internet drama because it's fun, not necessarily because it's drama, and tangentially it does really relate to things that we do on this channel. Um, about the status of content creators at large. I don't know if any of you guys follow live streamers outside of the horological space. I don't know if you have been following the kind of debate that has been raging on about quote unquote react content more recently. But essentially, um, every so often, this keeps coming up in the way that a lot of the Twitch streamers, especially, and XQC used to be one of the big ones. He has signed now an exclusive deal with another platform about the way they use smaller creators' contents just to run the time. Basically, they would, Hassan Abi is criticized quite often for just walking around this house and just running someone else's content and raking in the cash. XQC uploads a lot of content to his YouTube channel where his entire reaction is that's crazy, chat. That's crazy. Oh my god. Um, so these are the people who stand more or less on the side of saying, hey, it's my right. I'm actually giving them exposure, and there's no official way of remunerating those smaller creators, so I'm just going to do what I want. It's not a big deal. And Ethan Klein, who has been H3 podcast, and before that also a React content creator himself, sides on the other, side of the aisle, so to speak, is on the other side of the aisle and argues that there has to be some principle that you have to, while reacting to other types of content, you have to be producing something yourself. You have to be transformative, so on and so forth. The debate had the potential to be interesting, but XQC wasn't really interested, or perhaps was unable to articulate his argument. So he got very frustrated throughout. But as you can see here, he is wearing a lovely chain, which is relevant. I'm just earmarking that for later. After the debate, apparently, he reached out to Ethan Klein through DMs, I believe. I want to say Twitter DMs, and said the following: I know it kills you inside. You lost so much time and money in that lawsuit. By the way, um, not to make excuses for XQC, I actually do like some of the stuff that he does. I kind of like his style, his quirkiness, the fact that he's so unapologetic, even though I don't side with him on this debate. He's also going through some extended legal trouble with his ex, so he's a little pressed about the whole issue as well. But now he's saying to Ethan Klein, it kills you that you have lost so much money and time in that lawsuit. Which one? I don't know. Whichever, really. You seem so bitter after it. Ethan says, I'm fine. Anyways, when the bills kick in and you're struggling, remind yourself you leaked DMs out of insecurity. And then he flexes his beautiful watch, I suppose also out of some sort of, I don't know, maybe insecurity, but it is a beautiful watch. So I wanted to just highlight it, and highlight it at a time where my friend Ali, who's, as you know, always capes for AP, is on the stream. This is 15412 BC, a beautiful version of the open worked dual balance.
I really don't. I don't appreciate being profiled and discriminated against on air, young Brando.
Which, by the way, I don't know. Ali, help me identify it. I mean, do you think it might be a fake to begin with? Since we have been traumatized already by Adam Levine's doctored vintage Rolex.
That isn't a good enough picture for me to say that. I don't think so, simply because I don't think I've seen a single frosted fake. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty on top of the Ref Time forums and some of those other places, because for reasons that we'll cover actually on your channel and JJ's channel, and hopefully the very near future. I've been on top of it the past few months since I did the episode on counterfeits and terrorism and drug trafficking cartels. So I don't recall ever seeing a frosted fake. I've seen many others, so I'm going to go with probably not.
The only reason I'm saying this is, as far as I know, again, I don't know everything. As far as I know, the white gold frosted hammered finish version has a movement, an open work movement, of course, entirely executed in slate gray. And I'm seeing that the balance bridge at around 8 o'clock is, or maybe that's just the angle, but it kind of looks like gilt. But
it does look like gilt. There's no doubt about it. It does look like gilt. But I actually do think it is. I shouldn't say is, that I do think it was available that way 2 years ago when it was first released.
Yeah. Again, I don't see any reason to doubt it. It's also beautifully combined with an iced out, or rather diamond encrusted Juste un Clou by Cartier, which in itself is almost worth my entire watch collection. I think it runs for about $73,000 at the Cartier boutique before tax. This is the white gold version with 879 diamonds, totaling 7.16 carats. What do you think about this particular style? Should we cope? Must cop? Should not cop? Should flex? Should not flex?
Actually, first of all, I want to note that I am able to find something very similar from, again, about 2 years ago. Because the other thing is that the inner rehat there, right, is completely different than the current design.
That's right.
But the question is, and I actually think this might be the case, is those diamonds may be aftermarket.
Diamonds on the Cartier, you mean?
No, on the EV.
You mean the sapphires, the rainbow sapphires?
The rainbow sapphires, yeah. Sorry, I just
default
the diamonds. So
this is the current model.
This is the current model. So 2 years ago, that inner rehat where the indices are wasn't there. It was actually like it was a very aggressively angled wall. That's what they did 2 years ago. Okay.
Which is what this watch looks like,
Which is
right?
what that is, yeah. But as far as I'm aware, they didn't offer that with the stones, not for the factory.
And I mean, look, it is also, at least on the secondary market, it runs for about $350,000, if not more. I'm sure if you are making that kind of purchase from AP, you might be able to, you might be able to ask for rainbow bezel from them, but maybe that's a minor quibble.
It is a minor quibble, and SJX just verified for me that it was available in exactly the configuration we're seeing.
Okay.
At 37 mil, exactly the configuration we're seeing. So, all right. So let's assume it's real for the moment. Here's the Cartier stuff. So here's the problem. First of all, it's a terrible watch. I'm sorry. I love AP, but it's a terrible watch. Okay.
Why? I thought
frost.
you like the double balance open
I
work.
love the double balance. I love the double balance. And I actually like the frosted because I've seen the frosted in person, although I don't think it would work on me. But rainbow, there's one rainbow watch that is allowed to be a rainbow watch in the market, and that's the Rainbow Daytona. No other watch can pull off the rainbow motif properly. And especially since AP has done this thing where they have that whole rainbow all decked out in stones set that you could only buy as a set. And then, no matter how many times I grilled them, and I can't confirm this, but as far as I can tell, their stones were heat treated for that set, which really offended me for the price they were charging for that set. If they had not, because naturally matching them is difficult, but not impossible. People do that in high-end jewelry. So as far as I can tell, they heat treated it, which for me then means I can't rule out that they heat treated the stones for the colors and all of these other rainbow sets. So that's the first thing. Is I hate the gem set bezels.
I found the exact watch, by the way. It's a different reference number. It's the 15468.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect.
In 37 millimeters rather than 41.
Yeah. So they had released this in 2019. If it's still available, fantastic. So the and this is also one of the ones which has the Audemars, the AP or the Audemars Piguet on the glass on the sapphire, which I hate that as well. But I don't like the colors. I don't like the bezels done this way. I don't like them with diamonds either. First of all, but when you pair it with Cartier, I even hate the watch more because it's like double douche mode. It's douche squared. Like, this is one of the douchiest and cruelest flexes I've ever seen.
And also, he's wrong on that account too, because you put these together, you have what, at most $500,000. I think Ethan Klein's mention is about $10 million. So it's not really his house on XQC's wrist, which actually is what he says. Don't forget,
it's
I got
such
your
a
whole
douchey
house
thing.
on my wrist.
It's such a douchey thing to say, and the people who do this ruin these. Like, I might have liked this watch if I had never seen this, but now that I've seen it, I hate this watch. And I already didn't really like it, but now I hate it.
I think it's the perfect combo. Look, tight black jeans, diamond encrusted Cartier nail bracelet, frosted 18 karat white gold with the rainbow bezel, open work dial. It has like so many layers.
Yeah, I call this look the Thai lady boy.
Oh, come on.
Like, no, I'm sorry. No, Brando, do not compliment this douchebag. So first of all, the debate would have been interesting, right? Because it's actually a debate where I have my own independent feelings, but at the same time, I don't think XQC is wrong because this is a legitimate market. If this can't be a legitimate market, then OnlyFans can't be a legitimate market. Then TikTok at all can't exist. Then like most of Twitch and YouTube can't exist. Right. So you have to, even these streams really, not yours in particular, but most streams shouldn't exist if this isn't a legitimate market. Now, the remunerations for smaller creators, I think that's a problem created by the YouTubes, the Twitches, and certain platforms like Kick are trying to address it. So I think that's a different problem. Nor do I think even the really big people like Mr. Beast or XQC, and Mr. Beast being much bigger than XQC, should solve it. But the debate should have been had, and I have points from my perspective on both sides of the debate, but this response in private is such a douchey response.
But by the way, the reason I said I side on the other side of the aisle vis-a-vis XQC on this debate is because he basically refuses to have the debate. He says there's no problem, there's no issue. I will do what I want because I'm the big streamer.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. I do think it is an important debate to have. I do think there's a lot of nuance to it. I think that we should have, if not necessarily legal, because not every I'm not a very litigious person, right? Not everything should be taken to court. I think we should have higher standards when it comes to React content. I think we should hold ourselves to a higher standard when we react to other people's content. Always doing our best to not only recognize but also add something to it. You know, if it's worth our time. I think the quote unquote React harder meme is beautiful and it should be enshrined and framed and hung on our walls. I think people should do a better job. Should be even better than how they are on their own when they are handling other people's content. Um,
And I
but yeah, I
agree with
think
you on all of those accounts. And I would also like to note something that the React folks will never admit is that the technology already exists to improve the situation. And the reason we know the technology already exists to improve the situation is that if you are a small streamer, let's say a young Brando, and you do React content to XQC or even other small streamers, you will get a copyright strike within seconds.
that's right.
So
That's
it's
right.
it's one of those things that is very frustrating to me when people say it's like, difficult to do, it's impossible to do. I'm like, no, it really isn't. It's that they balance the automatic enforcement in favor of revenue. And that's a voluntary decision those platforms are making. They're not balancing it in favor of a track record of good behavior. Because if they were balancing it for a track record of good behavior, almost certainly most of the large content creators would get more strikes faster and would have to prove good behavior. Because for the most part, it's definitely not good behavior. So in any case, yeah, the debate should have been had. I've never found XQC particularly compelling in any dialogue that he's ever carried. He appears. I'm a big, chess player, and he appears, and he is a perfectly good, quite in some cases, like some people would consider him a very good chess player.
Okay.
Uh, I wouldn't go that far, but he is frequenting in chess circles, and he has brought a lot of people to the game as well. Um, I'm thankful for that, but like, I'm not eloquent, and he makes me look like fucking Hemingway.
Hemingway wasn't particularly eloquent either, so you don't. He was clear,
Yeah.
but not sure if I would choose the word eloquent.
Neither was Twain, for that matter. Eloquent isn't the right word for either of those two.
No, I mean I'm being unnecessarily harsh and facetious, but
No, they
I
were
know what
excellent
you mean.
writers. They were not
The
like particularly.
XQC strikes me as someone very smart. Um,
Oh, sure,
I
absolutely.
I don't I don't I don't wish to say anything beyond that. I think he is, he has a very interesting style, and I actually, when he is actually talking, I like listening to it because you don't know what to expect, right? For that reason, I like his energy. But yes, he's not the most distinguished orator. That's
I
that's
will.
for
I
sure.
I do like his energy. I think he is somewhat vapid.
And Ethan Klein, I can't suffer anymore. That's
Oh
that's all
yeah,
I'm
no.
gonna
There's
say. He
zero
has,
question about that.
over the years, he has become insufferable. But then again, that shouldn't blind me to the fact that he's kind of on the right side of history, if you ask me, on this particular debate, because he's certainly not asking for the end to React content. That would be also supremely hypocritical because that was his beginning. He
Well, and
has
that's the thing. Ethan Klein is pushing 40, or he's in his 40s. He's pushing 40, or he's 40. So, like many people that talk about these things, and the biggest example, I can't remember her name at the moment. Okay, she was one of the top 3 earners on OnlyFans for like a year.
Who?
or 2 years.
Who?
I don't know, Black China or somebody on OnlyFans. She was like
Oh
one of the
yeah, yeah,
biggest
yeah, yeah,
earners,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Black China. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
and then she's like, I have found Jesus and I'm out. I'm not doing this anymore after netting like over $50 million. So it's like when Ethan Klein comes to the rescue when he's pushing 40 after he's already made like more life than he possibly could out of it, and now he's
That's a that's a
aged
great
out
analogy.
of right now that he's aged out of the market for React videos or YouTube content in general. Like at that point, you know, I don't think it's admirable. The professional athletes and celebrities do this all the time though, but usually they do it through their children,
Yeah,
right? They suddenly their children become whatever the latest hot political like intersectional minority is, like, and for the use of promoting themselves and becoming relevant again. Celebrities do it all the time. So in this case, Ethan Klein I don't think is doing anything like,
yeah.
remotely
Well,
close to
I mean,
remarkable, but
again,
yeah.
two points. The With the Black China stuff, I think Jesus was probably there all along. Maybe she wasn't looking too hard earlier. Um,
That's a remarkably nice way of putting that.
if he is there, he was there all along. I think. But when it comes to Ethan Klein, yes, he has professionally moved away from React content exclusively. But when you look at his live streams and the way he engages, he still reacts to other people's content, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I think, honestly, again, if I were to model, not that I need any models, um, the way XQC handles and reacts to other people's content, or the way Ethan Klein handles and reacts to other people's content, I think I would choose Ethan Klein's way, even though I don't like Ethan Klein at all. So that's why I wanted to say that, and I think it's important, in the sense that we should be able to recognize that people whom we don't like can come up with good points and can make good arguments once every so often.
People you don't like is your whole panel right now.
What do you mean?
You don't like yourself much. You certainly don't like me. So
I
people,
I think what you said first was on point, but I do actually like you, Ali. I may have a strange way of showing it, but I do I do
no,
actually
no, no,
like.
it's good stuff. I do think that. I mean, I am like I'm a little saddened that he decided that this was the uh, the argument, the way he was going to take that argument offline is that flex. And it really, if there was a redeeming quality to that watch for me, which by the way, I don't think there was. I really haven't. I don't like those. I'm going to call it iced out, even though they're not, diamonds in some of these cases. I really don't like those watches, to be honest with you. I
Yeah.
just don't.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, I will say one thing. While that we had that on still, let me put it on again. That is XQC's frosted white gold double balance open worked Royal Oak, 37 millimeters with the rainbow bezel. I think white gold, frosted or not, frosted perhaps makes it a little more, but of all the rainbow Daytonas, for example, I think the white gold one is the dullest one. If you are gonna go with
Yeah,
a watch,
I agree with you.
yeah, if you're gonna go with a watch that's screaming so loud, you might as well go with yellow or pink. I mean, white gold with a rainbow bezel with the Daytona, I thought was always slightly off the mark, and it's the same thing here. If I would have a major quote unquote aesthetic concern with this watch, is that it's not obnoxious enough. It's not obnoxious enough. It should have been pink gold. It should have been yellow gold. Even the frosted white gold doesn't make it precious enough to be a watch to say, hey, I may have lost the argument, but look at my watch.
Yeah. So the by the way, I do want to thank you for recommending and again and some other auction houses. Excuse me, I
Bless you.
didn't hit mute fast enough.
That's okay.
Um I did register with a couple because. So I'll be completely candid with you. I was ignorant of auctions, and I watched you cover a lot of auctions. And every time you did, I would not every time you did. For the initial probably few months that I would tune into you covering auctions, there were usually watches where had no interest because they're mostly Rolex for obvious reasons, right? I had no interest
Yeah.
in them, and I was looking at them like, since I have no interest, I never did a price analysis. Then the more watches I saw that I was familiar with, I realized that in some of these cases, phenomenal deals can be had,
Yes.
right? And I completely missed out on that. So, uh, thank you for the recommendations. I did register, and I have taken them to heart.
But also to you're most welcome, first of all, but also to Steelman, the opposite argument is the reason that people increasingly deal with gray market dealers on the one hand, or with emergent or even established independent watchmakers on the other, is because unfortunately a lot of auction houses did a mess of things to destroy what was for long a stellar reputation, and you can kind of make a
Yeah,
case against each and every one of them. So with
yeah, yeah,
auction it become, knowledge is your biggest capital in auctions. If you know what you're looking for, if you know what is fishy, or if you at least have someone who can act in some sort of consulting capacity to clarify what is more desirable, what is completely objectionable to you, you should be fine. And you can usually get a better deal. And it turns out that you are basically paying um, anyone else you're dealing with, especially some of the more hip gray market dealers, basically a premium because you trust them, right? You're actually
yeah,
paying them for out of your confidence. And that in itself, and I'm not saying that about your personal case, unfortunately, that in itself could be a misplaced confidence as well. So at the end of the day, all you're left with, whomever you are dealing with, is your knowledge.
yeah. So let's address that. So first of all, I've been very candid. I've said on air on multiple shows that I will never buy from another gray market dealer unless it's specifically Marco at Luxury Bazaar. I don't care if Adrian or Roman call me because I don't know them. I have no reason to dislike them. I just don't know them. Or Nico himself at Pride and Pinion because I know those too. And I'm paying a premium in both of those cases for the personal relationship, the trust, and for a certain extent, their network. Right, I'm paying that premium. I know that I am. So then the question becomes, why would I look at the auctions? Well, the answer is like listing number 2 on this page. Often, if I go to these people and I say, I want you to source me a watch, they're going to end up sourcing it from other gray market dealers or other people that may be listing them on auction. So I'm going to end up paying another middleman fee anyway. Right. And at a
Yeah.
certain point in your collection journey, especially when you've moved away from Rolex, Patek, Vacheron, those brands, when you've moved away from them, there's an advantage. At least this is what I'm learning through my time on the Young Brando Watches and Style channel. There's an advantage of considering the auction houses because the advantage for reliability and service network and keen eye for detail that a Roman Scharf, an Adrian, or a Marco provide, or Nico, or Steve, or these guys provide, goes completely away when it comes to Gronefeld. It's just gone.
Mhm.
How so there's no benefit there anymore. So that's why I wanted to look into auctions, and I came to the right person to ask about trustworthy auctions. I got the answer. Got 4 auctions, registered for information on 2 of them after looking around a little bit. I have had a bad interaction with Bonhams, so I avoided Bonhams. Uh, the Bonhams network, which is, I should note, is a network. It isn't like a monolithic company. So I have nothing against Bonhams for watches, but I had a bad interaction with them on something not watch related, so I just
Okay.
wanted to avoid them. And hey, I wanted to thank you for it because I expect there's a more than reasonable chance that I'm going to end up getting a watch from an auction house in the next year or two as part of
All
my
right.
3G rotation.
I know something to hold you over as you're waiting for your ultimate 3 and a G
Yeah,
collection.
more or less, yeah.
So speaking of which, should we look at these HDH pieces a little
Yeah.
more?
Yeah, let's do it.
You can take your pick again. I put the link
She
in the
dropped the
chat.
link. All right. So what I'm going to do
So
is I'm
if
going to
you
actually open the link real quick.
if you guys want us to highlight any particular lot, feel free to send them in with a super chat. And if you have any particular questions, feel free to uh, send them our way as well.
All right. So there's two that I'd like to look at. The first one is a morbid curiosity, and that is lot 22.
All right.
Okay. I personally think this was a mistake
Ooh.
for him to do the Mad Ones.
Okay.
I think, at least the way he executed it. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the Mad.
Well, I like speaking with caveats. So if you allow me, I will start with saying what was nice about it, not simply as a gesture or as a sentimental point, because I'm actually, as much as I appreciate Maximilian Büsse's work in the industry and for his own brand, MBNF, I'm not really a huge fan of the style. There are certainly more than a handful pieces that I liked when he was directing Harry Winston's watch division and orchestrated basically some of the most interesting works under the Opus series. But I think ultimately these Mad One editions generated a lot of widespread excitement for the brands that may not have been there um, if it weren't for these relatively accessible pieces, relatively affordable pieces that were also made available, not in this particular case because this is the supposed Friends edition, right? The red accented version, um, as you know, every time they release a new, should I say, bunch, um, every time they come up with a new run, they actually run a lottery, and you win the lottery, you get the privilege to buy it, which ends up being actually quite a bit more fair than the regulated access to many brands. So I think this actually was a very successful project, although the skeptic and cynic inside me says, how come this lottery always gets won by the watch journalists, and how come every watch journalist has a Mad One piece? That will be forever a mystery to me. Not really. I should tell everyone that I did put my name down in the last lottery because I wanted to hold a place for a friend, but I didn't win anyways. I guess that tells you a lot about my status as a quote unquote watch journalist. But all of that being said, I think this is a fun piece. I have to say that uh, except for the perpetual calendars and chronographs they produce, that MBNF produces, this might be my favorite MBNF piece, if I may put it like that.
I mean, when you start from the position of, because I'm not particularly keen on their uh, style either, right? But I actually, again, like you, I respect them and what they're doing, especially from an engineering perspective. And I could say that to a certain extent about like Group of Force as well. Although I've become more keen on some of Grubel's styles, right?
Mhm.
So I think, we're there together. Uh, I think that's a really good point when you say that ultimately this provided access and visibility to them that they really didn't have to some key markets. I think that's a fair statement. So maybe it was a good move in that regard. I'm not sure I'm convinced because I feel it takes away from the prestige of what they really do, well. Um, but I can definitely
Honestly,
see the angle, the angle.
to me, if anything, I mean, Goldfinger 0808, I think, basically hints at that point as well. To me, if anything takes away about, if anything about this watch takes away from their larger image, it's that it's not a watch. It's a trinket. I don't give a shit about how much they think it's an innovative way of reading time. It's impractical. It's gimmicky, and it's not cool. I mean, whatever it is, it's the coolest thing about the watch is the inverted rotor. I think the way it spins is quite eye catching and cool, but it's not a watch. It's not a primarily it's not a watch. And if that's some sort of meta commentary about the state of mechanical watches in the 21st century, I get it, Maximilian, you're a genius. But Mad One is not a watch. It's a trinket. It's something to show off. It's a flex piece of some sort, even though it's relatively affordable if you can get it at list price. But that whole, what do they call it? Lateral reading of time. Um, I'm unimpressed. I think it's actually quite impractical and not very good.
Yeah, I think, for me, the pushing the practical limits of reading time are the uh, Star Wheel styles that Gorilla, AP, and a couple other brands make, and retrograde movements are kind of like they're kind of the practical limit of pushing time. I think the zingers for me push it just a little too far, which is, again, I did order the zinger, but by the time singer, sorry, um, it just, I'm not sure it's going to last because it's pushed it too far. And in this case, absolutely. Uh, I think Urwork does, this better and whatnot. So, all right. So I was just interested, I do appreciate what you said though. I totally see your point when you say it actually gave them visibility that they desperately needed outside of normal horological circles. Now, to the main show, unless somebody super chats, you're gonna make me super chat my own question here, guys. Um, to the main show though, is
You know
I
what?
want to hear.
Before we get to that, I do also want to add again. I I actually love the work that Stephen McDonald does for MBNF. I'm a huge fan of both the Legacy Machine Perpetual and the LMP Evo, the sporty version of it. The sequential, I also adore his design of the chronograph. I think Stephen McDonald is genuinely a genius. So I do love what he does. Again, it might not necessarily strike my fancy, tickle my pickle. It might not necessarily be my style, but I really appreciate the innovative approach that he brings in collaboration with Max Büsse to designing what are otherwise traditional complications. And again, at list price, if you have access to this, you'll probably be getting the red. Blue is the Friends exclusive. I believe there's also like a copper toned salmon tinted version that was made for GMT Italia,
Yeah,
their Milan-based dealer, if I'm not mistaken, certainly from Italy. Um, yeah, this particular piece is lot number 22 at the HDH auctions, which is going to take place on August 25th as their first watch auction in Newcastle, Delaware. And so Ali wants, yeah, which one are we looking at, Ali?
Nobody took the hint for super chat. All right, that's fine. Lot 26. And I'm going to say flat out, I have almost to the point of protest not spent time looking at Acrivias.
Okay, well, let me try to make an argument for this Acrivia specifically. Now, this is their cover girl. This is their premium lot. And I think that in itself, I don't want to be dramatic and think it's obvious or anything, but that in itself says something about the Acrivia AK06, since this wine auctioneer chose it as the premium lot for their first watch auction. But more important than that is what it signifies, I think, within Recep Recep's trajectory as a watchmaker. Speaking of which, I do want to get my drink as well. Again, this is a tribute to JJ of JJ's Watch Hangout. We both drink Italian sparkling water. I got the generic this time from Whole Foods. Jake Brooks, a member of the channel, with the 49.99 super chats. Neighbor water issue might have just been solved. Okay, this is probably an inside joke that I can't even get, but I appreciate it nevertheless. So I was making the case for AK06. AK06 in many ways is the natural bridge in Recep Recep's own trajectory of watchmaking as an independent, because every single piece before this was a tourbillon, right? A tourbillon of some sort, tourbillon jump hour, tourbillon monopusher chronograph, tourbillon this, tourbillon that. This was the first time he took on himself as a challenge to produce a time-only high horological watch. And I think this was also the first time that he did a fully open worked dial as well. And obviously this looks, in terms of case design, in terms of how the face of the watch looks, in terms of how it's finished, how the hands are shaped, everything looks so much more different, radical, divergent from chronomètre contemporain, for sure. But this was the moment where Recep Recepi said, okay, let me tone things down a little bit and focus on the basics. So for that reason, I think AK06 is an important watch. From an auction perspective, this is an important moment because this is the first time that an AK06 is being sold on a public auction. The piece itself is actually quite bare bones when you think about it. Its only quote-unquote complication is the power reserve indicator, which is situated at the focal point at 12 o'clock. Other than that, you have the oversized subsidiary dial for the continuous seconds, a very nicely hand dimpled base plate, of course, all the accents of the subdial, including this flange right here, the screw that caps, or rather bolts in the power reserve indicator. Everything is beautifully finished as always. And the piece is of course in stainless steel.
I'm having a hard time understanding
Okay.
why the Acridias and RR in general are fetch the premiums they do when I don't know. They're not speaking to me. The finish is remarkable. There's no question about it. But they're not speaking to me. The like this particular design, you know, you have made it. Obviously, I am in no position to contend with your case of the historical significance of this versus their previous lines. But I think the design of the hands, the I don't want to call it a. I mean, I don't even know what to call that hand in this case. It's the viewport is in a different location than we would normally speak. I don't think it provides any particular aesthetic uniformity or utility. I don't like what appears to be definitely not heat treating, but some sort of plating on the hands. Um,
No,
though
no,
you know,
that is heat treatment. That is heat bluing. Yeah.
it looks completely off, and it could be the pictures in this case. But I was looking at other pictures as well. The the dimpling I think is remarkably difficult to do if they did that by hand. So more power to them. Obviously, Roland Gauthier does that with a watch I have coming in. I just don't see anything about any of their watches that fetch that tickle my fancy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why they fetch such a bloody premium. I was kind of hoping that somebody would, and no better person than you, kind of say, "Here's the hidden beauty you're missing." And I think it's just I just don't like it. It's
No,
not
I think,
objectively beautiful to me.
I have to say, um, there is a kind of artisanal beauty to the finishing. Of course, the premium is not necessarily dictated by, especially in this case, by a technical superiority this watch has over the chronomètre contemporain. It's simply because it is a historical predecessor of a time of Recep Recep's career where he was still on the precipice of that mainstream fame, right? It's kind of, um, I guess it's really for the street cred in a way, right? Like, oh, I was a fan of Recep when he was still making watches under the Acrivia brand name.
That's
Because
actually kind
yes,
of funny.
the finishing is stellar. It has a lot of, I think, artisanal aspects, like the small imperfections that one might find even endearing. But is it better than Rebelle Forcé? Probably not. Um, so I don't want to necessarily say any of that, but this is, again, an open work dial that opens to a dimpled base plate, hand chamfered details, um, a lot of these things chiseled by hand. It does have a certain charm, but you can't fall in love with something through proxy of someone else's description. I mean, I have to say that. So
Yeah, fair
I mean,
enough.
yeah,
I
it's
mean,
not. I think again, if you ask me, would I rather have an Akrivia or a piece by Voutilainen? I think I would say Voutilainen. Um, as much as I like Dufour simplicity, even if I were rolling, at that segment, would I pay so much for that watch? Probably not. Um, if I were to have something by Recep Recepi, I would rather have probably the CC2. It is what it is. It's really about our taste. I think again, this is an important moment. I think from the back, it's as beautiful as any other watch that Becep has ever made, with all the interior angles, with the broad stripes on the bridge plates, and even the design of the bridge plate. Right? It kind of, to me, always I see kind of a bat signal there. So I always like that design. And the case, I don't mind. I do prefer a more traditional case, but this kind of classic tonneau meets spaceship, I'm with it. I absolutely detest the hour hand. Um, I
I
can live
I,
with the
I
minute
hate the
hand.
hour hand. I hate the hour hand.
I mean, is it an olive? Is it a tomato? Is it some other sort of forbidden fruit? I don't know. I don't want to know. Uh, but yeah, eh, otherwise, I really do like the watch. Um,
Okay, yeah, it doesn't. It just doesn't speak to me. And I think if somebody showed me this and I did not know the estimated sale was going to be between 200,000 and 300,000, I would go, man, this is remarkable, and then ask how much it is. This could completely be a case of, since I already know how much it is, I'm looking at it going, there's no way I would pay that much for this. Like if I have 200 to 300,000, it's going elsewhere. So I could be a complete idiot here, which it wouldn't be the first damn time.
yeah, I mean, again, both aesthetically and from a utilitarian fashion, the open working does actually accomplish something here. Um, giving you a more intimate look of how the small seconds operate, how um, the power reserve indicator relates to the main spring barrel, so on and so, well, not barrel, but
It's a grape.
yeah. So I mean, look, there's a lot to like, but it's not necessarily the first thing that I would go for either.
Yeah, yeah, definitely not. I see. MCM said it's a ghost.
It's a
John
grape.
Riesling
Yeah,
said it's a grape.
it's a grape. It's a ghost.
The
Um,
ghost makes me think of Pac-Man.
so yeah, this is, again, just to repeat without beating a dead horse. This is an Akrivia AK06. The first time that this particular model comes up on a public auction, um, I think it is it's an important threshold in Recep Recepi's own work, because this is when he started tackling the time-only watch, when he dispensed with the tourbillon and just focused on the basics. This is the first time he had an open worked piece. And this is also, oh, shit. That's it. The new anti-magnetic watch with the Faraday cage. It's going to be with an open work dial. How did I not think of that? Because he had this whole shtick about, like, it's gonna have an old school anti-magnetic build, so it's gonna have the Faraday cage, but you'll still be able to admire the um, the high horological finish of the dial. And I was thinking, well, is it some sort of hinged case back and whatever else? It's gonna be an open work dial. I think so. Okay, it just hit me now. Sorry, it's not that big of a deal. Ultimately, yes, this is, therefore, I think this is also a bridge from when he built watches as Akrivia to when he's now making watches under the Recep Recepi brand and with the Chronomètre Contemporain series. Most recently with the Chronomètre Antimagnétique that's gonna be sold at the Only Watch as an Only Watch on November 5th. And the estimated value of the piece here is 200 to 300,000 US dollars.
That's crazy.
It really is.
There's only 30 watches in this auction, correct? 30 lots?
Yes. They're just dipping their toes in the water. There's an interesting, nice piece here. The 5800. This is the reduced size that came out, I think, right around the same time, or maybe a year or two later or after the 5711. And it had a very limited, well, at least limited production time, I think, for about 3 years. And then it got discontinued, I think, gave way to some of the more feminine models, which have 12 at 12 o'clock, like an Arabic numeral at 12 o'clock, and different hand design. I think even a different placement of the dates, no?
I believe so, yes.
But this was the reduced sized version before they came up with a quote unquote proper ladies version of the watch. Not that these things matter much in today's market, because I have seen actually Alessandro Squarzi, for example, wearing the what is the feminine model, 7118, something like that. And obviously, I think of all the integrated bracelets watches, I think it's the Nautilus that lends itself probably the best to a feminine wrist, but that's neither
the
here nor
Nautilus in any size lends itself best.
I think so.
I think like a properly sized Royal Oak, I think, is just better looking. But the Nautilus, in a very real sense, like the Daytona, is a scalable watch. At most sizes, it looks good on a woman's wrist.
Hi, JJ and John Riesling. I agree. I think, especially because of the eye-catching quality of its finish, the Royal Oak, which has been adapted for a long time now, since the 80s, also in quote-unquote feminine versions. Sure, yes. But in the jumbo size, I think it's the Nautilus is a more feminine watch.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Absolutely. I agree with you.
that way. But I mean, that's just a personal opinion, so doesn't doesn't
Man,
really.
it took me like 45 seconds to figure out you were talking about Junior Johnson. I'm like, I don't see JJ in the chat. Where's JJ in the chat?
Yeah, sorry, my JJ is Junior Johnson, but I do love JJ of JJ's.
Yeah, no, that's fair. But I was
Hangout as
super
well.
confused for a second. I'm like, oh, the boss came to check on me.
Yeah, you don't even call yourself as the unpaid intern anymore, but
That that joke ran its course. Because people then started like assuming I was actually being paid and all sorts of stuff. Like I'm like, no, I'm doing this. I'm not getting paid by anybody. I'm doing this because I like these people. I
yeah,
pay
yeah.
I pay into all of the channels I'm
That's true. That's true. Oh, that's why you had to be so specific about, like, oh, um, when I give these gift memberships, you know I do it with this particular purpose in mind. You were still clarifying that.
Yeah, there was one of the many conspiracy theories is that like there is a strange amount of revenue being generated that's being passed around, right, to build other channels to compete with one specific channel. I mean, I can't imagine how much more of a self-involved, like narcissistic view you have to have of
I
yourself
really
to
don't
believe that.
Honestly, I really don't understand. I just met a couple of weeks ago, like, a chiropractor who just broke 1 million subscribers. And you are talking about a channel that has not yet broken into 10,000, I believe. And I mean, these people, I mean, I'm sorry to psychoanalyze too much, but I think they have never been in spotlight their entire life. They have not been loved by their parents, and the littlest amount of fame they have gotten on YouTube has completely gotten to their head. I mean, who do they think they are? No one cares. No one
Like,
cares about
dude,
them.
I
That's why I
totally agree with you.
refuse to mention their name. Like, I know chiropractors who have 1 million YouTube subscribers. We are extremely small fries. We are small fish, like, to the unbelievable extent. Like,
Yeah, I know.
don't don't get into these mind games before you break at least 100,000. I mean, it's crazy.
It's pure insanity. So I just like, so it was a joke in response to that for a while, but I do clarify it because some people do believe, that there's some nefarious purpose or some form of marketing. I'm like, that's, if you want to choose somebody to market your channel, I'm probably the worst possible person. Like, it's, what am I gonna do? Like, hold a Coke and a smile and scare people away? So anyway, yeah. Although the Coke and a smile was the Cosby thing, so that's probably not a good example to use because I'm not drugging you. It ain't happening.
JB was saying, at parents' night at school, one dad sported a nice Royal Oak 15500. It looked
Were
great.
you at parents' night at my daughter's school the other night? Because I was wearing a
Mm,
Royal.
well, I mean, unless your daughter goes to school in Texas.
No,
um,
not quite that far. It is very far from me. Not Texas far though.
John, I did not mean to say that. Okay, look, everyone knows by now that I'm not a big fan of the Nautilus, but I am a big fan of the feminine figure. So if I'm saying anything that's supposed to be praise for the Nautilus, but I didn't want to put it in such stark terms that the Nautilus is feminine, Royal Oak is masculine.
No, John,
Uh,
that's
that
exactly what he said. You're totally
that
right. That's
that would
exactly what he
be
said.
that would be absolute ludicrous. I do think that in the jumbo version, uh, the Nautilus is a very sleek watch, and it does exude a feminine quality much more readily than the Royal Oak. That doesn't necessarily make the Royal more masculine, it does make it less feminine. It's not such a zero-sum game. It's year
I wanted to
2023.
figure out a way if we could cancel you over a Nautilus comment. Young Brado canceled over calling Nautilus feminine. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, sure. Why not? I mean, I'm sure those days will come, but no one is worried about
Not
me
yet.
as we speak. Um, yeah, look, John, maybe. I mean, if that's the way you want to put it, I again, the only thing I said is that in their original designs,
Huh.
the Nautilus strikes me as a little more feminine. That being
See,
said,
that's a
again,
fit. Like, that's an interesting question when you think about it.
yeah,
Like, the Nautilus is flared, and the edges aren't as well defined. It doesn't have the plate screws from behind. The bracelet itself is contoured completely differently than the original Jumbo, and the original Nautiluses were also contoured completely differently. It is a softer watch all the way around, and it's also contoured differently front to back, which in and of itself has another
hmm
feminine aspect to it, right? I don't know. That's actually kind of interesting when you put it that way. Like, yeah, I think, and I have no industrial design or fashion design experience or anything, but if I was to think of it in my head, I would say, yeah, that makes total sense. The Nautilus is just more of a feminine design.
and MCM actually puts it from a different perspective and a very interesting way. Janta's yin yang. That's an interesting way of putting it. That being said, this is a 5800, which I believe was only produced between 2006 and 2009. It came out at the same time as 5711, which revived the jumbo in stainless steel. 5800 basically replaced the 3800, which is the mid-size slash reduced sized version of the Nautilus that reigned or that kind of had its time during the 90s. 5800 is ever so slightly bigger than that. And it's in terms of its design cues, it's more like the 5711 than 3700 or 3800 for that matter. 38.4 millimeters in diameter. And it, I think, yeah, I don't know whom this would interest, because I think if you're interested in a reduced size Nautilus, 3800 is, in larger numbers, so there are better deals to be found, even though they have completely skyrocketed in terms of their valuation in the market in the last 5 years. Unsurprisingly, I don't have to tell you about that trend. The estimated value of this particular watch at lot 25 is 70,000 to 100,000 in US dollars.
Yeah, they can go to hell. No way. I cannot accept the prices of the Nautiluses. I'm sorry. I just can't accept the prices of the Nautiluses.
Me neither. But again, I'm the last person who should offer a personal opinion, because I could simply care less. Yeah, it's just not. It's not my cup of tea.
You, Swiss, and me are actually really funny about Automorphic and the Royal Oak in particular. We all want Royal Oaks, and all of us have specific ones that are our grails. But we all recognize Audemars Piguet is shitting the bed with their chronos and their complications and their QC and whatnot. So it's like the strangest love-hate relationship
Yeah,
with one
I
of the
mean
Trinity brands.
that's why I'm, of course, people who don't know me extensively on this platform and who don't know me personally think that I simply hate AP. But usually, yeah, my hate from AP actually comes from my love from AP. And it's not actually that
Exactly.
complicated to wrap your head around either. It's just I'm very passionate about the brand in one way or another. Um, my difference from you is I don't necessarily put my money where my mouth is. Um, and I'm really a Royal Oak enthusiast more than anything else, even though historically there's a lot that I like about AP before the Royal Oak as well, and to some extent after the Royal Oak too. Um,
After this podcast, I'll send you wrist shots and private DMs and remind you that I'm wearing the price of 700 car payments on my wrist.
please do, please do. I I mean
An
I'm
obnoxious
always I'm
prick.
always desperate to see another picture of Royal Oak. So by all means, we talk a lot about Daniel Roth or Daniel Roth in this channel. Um, this was a watch that was produced for the 10th anniversary of the brand. Daniel Roth had to break off from Breguet by the end of the 80s. He was, um, along with the CEO, Francois Baudet, the person who spearheaded the revival of Breguet in the world of modern wristwatches and as a brand. The Chomet brothers, who financed this revival, found themselves at the center of a Ponzi scheme of sorts for which they actually served jail time, and they were about to bring Breguet under. Breguet was eventually rescued by Investcorp, a Bahraini investment brand, made profitable and handed to the Swatch Group at the turn of the century. But Daniel Roth chose to go his own way. Um, Things were okay, I think, for 5, 6 years, after which he had a problem acquiring more funds to exist fully as an independent brand. The Hourglass, the Singapore based watch dealer, came to the rescue. Um, the rest of the story might get a little too complicated, but they were the owners of the Daniel Roth brands until year 2000. And they have actually made the brand relevant to a broader audience of customers and collectors, mostly through stainless steel pieces, sportier designs, more accessible models from a monetary perspective. Um, and they also honored Daniel Roth for the 10th anniversary of the brand as an independent, and the Papillon, uh, quote unquote, the butterfly, for the particular shape that you can see on the dial, is basically the last to be really touched by the hand of the master before he broke off again from a brand that he built mostly through the sweat of his own brow. This is a jump hour piece. As you can see, there's an aperture at 12 o'clock, which shows the brand. The time, the minutes are actually not retrograde. There are like two arrows, uh, one of which shows up at 0 as the other one completes its um, its sequence at 60. The dial is beautifully finished with a wave motif for the seconds at the center of the watch, hobnail for most of the main dial. There's also that coin-edged separation that sets off each and every one of the scales, and also a further I don't know, like a stripe formed design as well that frames the seconds subdial and carries the signature as well. This is a white gold case of the famous double ellipse or ellipsocurvex shape. The lot essay is kind of wrong because the brand ended in Bulgari's hands in 2000 and later on under the LVMH umbrella, of course, after Moët Hennessy Louis Vuitton bought Bulgari. So that date is much later. I think these pieces were made for 30 pieces in platinum and 110 each in pink gold and white gold, and this is a white gold example. Yeah, I think this is if you're gonna do something unusual, this is a good way to do it in terms of how to show time.
Yeah, it's a beautiful watch. It is a beautiful watch.
There are also later stainless steel versions of this watch with a different case design that has kind of like a hood for the upper parts of the dial. So less artistic, more mundane, perhaps, but much more accessible in terms of price point. So if you would like to see some of those, feel free to seek it out from me. Feel free to message me as well. Flare, yeah, that's a good way of putting it. And the usual criticism crops up again when it comes to these kinds of jump hour pieces. It looks like an old school weighing scale. Sure enough. But I think it's just good industrial design. If that's what it reminds you of, can't really argue with that. I think the finishing really sets it off in a different way. And as MCM says, I'm a huge fan of that double ellipse design. I think it also looks very cool and almost immediately distinguishable on the wrist. It's the kind of watch that, watch aficionados recognize almost immediately, and people who don't care about watches just come to check out, kind of like the Reverso, right? Of all the watches that I have, the Reverso probably is the most interesting watch to people who don't care about watches. And the Daniel Roth case, the double ellipse shape, has the similar attraction.
I could see that.
And this is also a very beautiful design on the rotor, which has the particular number of the watch engraved along with the 10-year recognition with a guilloche decoration on it as well. number 106 of 110. Quite a late one.
40,000. Reasonable price. I had my Scarface close at hand. I know you saw this.
Yeah.
He's got some cocaine on his under his nose and on his shirt. They did the back of it really well
Amazing.
as well. This guy did great work on this.
Yeah. Did you see my little meme with Tony Montana?
Let me go pull up. Was it recent?
No, not really recent. Let me. This was in the run up to when this and I talked about Scarface on the channel.
Oh, I don't remember it at this point. Pull it up. But I did the same day I got that. I got the 2 Coca-Cola G-Shocks. So I thought that was a good way to take a picture. Tony Montana surrounded by Coke. Pull up your meme. That's bad. You know, I got some Cafe Bustelo K-Pods.
This is me. Yeah, I mean, you know, at any point in time, that's how my fridge looks. That's actually a direct shot of my fridge, and like a photo chop, as we say, like, you know, the worst work ever seen in Photoshop, just slotting that right in there. Yeah, this is how I imagine myself to be. That's my biggest addiction, coffee.
How many ounces you drink a day, right? Roughly.
I don't know. I get them in 24 bricks, and they're bricks too. So it it makes sense that way too. 24 at a time. I don't know how many ounces each are. I think 10 ounces each. So, and I don't always go through with it before the next one comes. So right now, I might have about 3,000. No, not 3,000. 300 ounces, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's a lot of caffeine.
Yeah. Well, you know, if I need an emergency supply. By the way, yes, just to put it out there again, I know it's their first time, but there are a few mistakes in some of the listings. I mean, this caliber is listed as manual, even though you have a beautifully finished.
You mean this is the first auction, the watch auction they're running?
Yeah. You know, obviously a self-winding caliber. The brand was acquired with Bulgari around 2000. 1995 is when the Hourglass came to the helm, came to the rescue. But anyways, these are minor qualms. Lot 27 is the last Daniel Roth watch actually touched by the Maestro, the last design given to Daniel Roth by its namesake, the 10th anniversary limited edition, 1 of 110 in white gold, the Daniel Roth Papillon, with an estimated value of 32,000 to 48,000 US dollars. Guys, please hit the like button while you are at it. Get the AO. Yeah, absolutely.
I actually have something kind of weird happening here. I'm semi-retired. I need to actually address a business partner. So I'm going to step away for a few minutes to make a phone call, but I will be back.
That's great, Ali. Please feel free to take as much time as you need. In the meantime, everybody, please don't hesitate to hit the like button. While Ali is away from the screen, I'm going to attend to perhaps some of the more predictable pieces, some of the more usual suspects. This is a pretty plain Jane piece by Patek Philippe. It was their entry level watch. It was their youthful piece. It is their Aquanaut here in the jumbo version 5167. As you guys know, today's well respected independent watchmaker, Laurent Ferrier, was for the longest time, and also at the time of the Aquanaut's inception, the director of Patek Philippe's creations department, which is just a fancy name for design, of course. And he seems to have been basically behind the inception, behind the conception of the Aquanauts, even though it is also obviously a derivative of the original Gérald Jantin design of the Nautilus. With the 5167, the case size had grown to 40 millimeters, hence the jumbo moniker, and the dial design has evolved to a globescape kind of look rather than the dial design that is alternatively called the grenade or chocolate bar in the previous generation. One of the things that I like about the 5167 and everything that came after it is its approach to the integrated design, where the rubber band sits absolutely flush with the case and the lugs, and how the pattern on the rubber band actually picks up the pattern on the dial. So there is a kind of an integrated look to the watch, even though it is not fashioned of the same material, even though it is not quote unquote an integrated bracelet design in the same way that the Royal Oak and the Nautilus are. Of course, from an aesthetic standpoint, you can also look at the Aquanaut as Patek Philippe's stab at a field watch as well. The colors and the aesthetic that is used on the watch's face and the applied Arabic numerals can be seen as design cues that point in that direction. This piece is, of course, rather unusual and slightly more rare than the average, since there is an extra signature at 6 o'clock by that much vaunted retailer headquartered in New York, Tiffany and Company. This piece has its papers apparently dated March 2017 and a service box. I'm assuming those papers, those original papers, also carry the stamp of Tiffany and Company. Here is a closer look at that signature that is right above 6 o'clock. And here is a look onto the caliber 324 SC, the self-winding movement that is the beating heart of the 5167. Hey, Speedy, how are you doing, man? Nice to see you. This is lot 30, the Patek Philippe Aquanaut 5167A, retailed and signed on the dial by Tiffany and Company from 2017 with an estimated value of 85,000 to 130,000 in US dollars. At 28, we have another usual suspect. We are looking at HDH auctions in a Goral watch auction, which is going to be a live event taking place in Newcastle, Delaware on August 25. Lot 28 is Vacheron Constantin Overseas with the blue dial. The time and date version, 4500V. This particular piece is usually claimed to have the best blue dial in the industry, along with FP Jones's chronomètre bleu, which is not a coincidence. As it happens, FP Jones's dial manufacturer, les Quadronnières de Genève, is actually partially owned by Vacheron Constantin as well. So both these dials are actually made in the same facility, so share a point of origin in that particular sense. The inky blue, I think, has a very charming quality in either case, even though I'm not really interested in claiming what is the best blue, which seems to be perhaps the most aesthetic question of all time, and is therefore quite subjective to begin with. But certainly, the third generation of the Vacheron Constantin Overseas series, which is, of course, VC's sports watch category, their particular designation or contribution to this integrated bracelet sports watch category. And at least for the last 4 years or so, or 3-4 years or so, it has also started getting the kind of attention perhaps it has rightly deserved, in addition to having a bezel that harkens to both the Maltese cross design, which is the symbol of the brand, but also to a ship's wheel, which of course resonates with the overseas theme. It also has a bracelet design, which speaks to that same iconography of the Maltese cross, and has, of course, when you look from the side of the case back, a number of things that speak to the sportiness of this watch and makes a very compelling argument to it. The 120 millimeters water resistance. the anti-magnetic qualities of the caliber. I meant to say 150 meters of water resistance, the anti-magnetic qualities of the movements, and also the easily interchangeable nature of the bracelets. This watch is famously supplied also with two pairs of alternative straps, a leather strap and a rubber strap. There's also a 22 carats gold and beautifully finished compass rose designed and partially skeletonized rotor to this self-winding movement, which carries the hallmark of Geneva, as well as the case. The Vacheron Constantin Overseas 4500V, stainless steel with the blue dial from year 2021 at lot 28 of the HDH auctions inaugural watch auction. The piece has an estimated value of 20,000 to 30,000 US dollars. I believe the retail price of the watch has already risen to 25,000. And of course, the blue dial being still the most covetable, it is not particularly easy to acquire through the boutique, and I think it does remain still a boutique exclusive as well. If you would like me to highlight any particular pieces, please feel free to click the link and send in the lot number. I would be more than happy to oblige. I want to continue this theme of Vacheron Constantin and we are looking at the currently discontinued platinum version of the Vacheron Constantin American 1921, the driver's watch with the slanted display, cushion case, and a hand-wound movement that is admired by none other than Kari Voutilainen himself. That movement actually, at least through one particular feature, actually is my least favorite part of the watch. To me, the charm of hand-wound movements is really in the crank, so to speak. If I can't hear it winding, if I can't hear it charging, it kind of loses its magic for me. The 4400 caliber 4400 is unfortunately designed to be ultra smooth and has this buttery soft feeling while you are actually winding the movements, and it's almost absolutely silent. So it's actually kind of a turn off for me. This platinum version is really delightful with blue Breguet numerals that I think echo really well with the heat blued Breguet styled hands, and also, of course, the off-center seconds subdial that has the decimal, every decimal of the seconds written in blue as well. There's a railroad track for the minutes. This particular example includes box and papers. Again, has a unique and stunning dial for this platinum version, which has the stylized Arabic numerals and handset that we came to recognize as Breguet, and even the accents on the contrast stitching on the leather band resonates with the platinum case of the watch. And here's a look at caliber 4400, which carries the hallmark of Geneva. Like a lot of the exclusive movements that are produced by Vacheron Constantin at this point in time. And again, this hand-wound movement is a personal favorite of none other by Kari Voutilainen himself, one of the most cherished independent watchmakers of our time. Lot number 14 is the Vacheron Constantin Historique American 1921 in platinum, with an estimated value of $28,000 to $42,000 US dollars. The piece is currently discontinued, is no longer part of the Vacheron Constantin catalog, so it could be an interesting chance to pick one up. They're not easy to come by at all, so this is one of the interesting propositions in this particular auction. I wanted to take a look at lot 19, which is Lange 1 in white gold. This is lot 19, a Lange 1 with the reference number 101027 from early 2000s. The Lange 1 was, of course, one of the quartets of models that were introduced in 1994 to celebrate the rebirth of this brand and the rejuvenation of German watchmaking more broadly, and the asymmetrical layout of the dial at the time was quite distinctive and proved to be a slow burner of sorts. It has, over the years, really has found its own militants, so to speak. I think to this day, the Lange one is the brand's most popular watch, and its particular approach to organized chaos, so to speak, harmony in asymmetry, seems to have struck a chord with a lot of serious collectors. This particular version combines the classic white gold case, 38.5 millimeters in diameter, with a rather rare dark blue dial. Of course, we have the off center, hour and minutes, with the sub dial for the seconds at 4 o'clock, the oversized display at 2 o'clock, and the power reserve indicator at around 3 o'clock. The oversized date, of course, has been very successfully integrated to Lange's mythology, the brand's own autobiography, so to speak. I made a video about um, the architectural inspiration behind Alan Gonzune's horological designs before. Since they have woven together the story of this oversized date display with the 5 minute stage clock that adorns the Dresden Opera House so well that people have started thinking that the oversized date is actually something of a German origin. But as it happens, um, just like the gear trains of these early movements, they were a technology borrowed from Jaeger-LeCoultre, which was at the time and still remains a sister brand to Alain Gonzune. At the time, of course, they were part of Les Manufactures Horlogères, led by none other than Günther Blümlein, along with IWC. IWC too played an important part in Lange's early advent, since the first core of watchmakers completed their training in Schaffhausen. One of the aspects of Lange watches from a couple of decades ago, for me is always the 3/4 plates of the movements, which has the distinctive finish with the Glashütte ribbing. But because it is made of this particular alloy of German silver, nickel, copper, and zinc, that begins its life with this yellowish hue, it takes on over the course of the years, this very charming patina that gives it champagne-like tint. And it's really beautiful to see how the story of those years passing leaves its mark um, in the very core of the watch, on the beating heart of the watch, as it does elsewhere. So it's quite fascinating. The earlier movements you can almost immediately recognize by these islands on that very plate. Those are the movements that were initially built on gear trains that were bestowed upon Lange by Jaeger-LeCoultre. Of course, you have that beautiful swan neck regulator, which sits on the freehand engraved balance cock. Once again, this is Lange 1 from around 2003 in a 38.5 millimeter white gold case with a dark blue dial, listed as lot number 19 at the HDH watch auctions, August 25, with an estimated value of 40,000 to 60,000 US dollars. Let's continue with the Lange theme. At lot number 3, we have an A. Lange und Söhne Saxonia dual time. The Saxonia is usually the slightly more refined, more traditional dress watch line for Lange. This piece has a dual time display, which is expressed as an additional 24-hour dial at 12 o'clock, which has a heat blued alpha styled micro hand. It has 2 additional pushers which help you easily switch back and forth the main hour hands as you travel through different time zones. Overall, the piece also exudes a sense of balance with counterbalancing that 24-hour hand with subdial for the seconds. As you can see, there is an hour hand for the reference time, and one that you can manipulate with the pushers back and forth as you change time zones. And the 24-hour is also divided into two, so to speak, with blue, with a blue accent for the nighttime and black for the morning hours. I think this model is still in production. Oh no, it is actually discontinued now. And this picture doesn't make it entirely clear, but that reference time, hour hand, is heat blued, just like the 24-hour hands. Of course, those two coordinates, whereas you can move and manipulate this gold hour hand with the two pushers back and forth. So this is a version in 38.5 millimeter pink gold case. The watch is also 9.1 millimeters thick only, which is a rather manageable thickness for a self-winding piece with a full rotor. That rotor itself is skeletonized and fashioned out of gold with supplemental platinum weight. And as you can see, the movement again is as handsomely decorated as any other Lange caliber, with the jewels sitting in slots with beautifully polished countersinks, the heat blued screws, the hand engraved balance cock, the perlage of the base plate, the glashütte ribbing on the bridge plate rather. This is the Saxonia dual time 385032 at lot number 3 with an estimated value of $10,000 to $15,000. Ali and I are covering the inaugural HDH watch auctions that are going to take place in Delaware on August 25. Hart Davis Hart has built its reputation in selling wines. So this is their first venture into auctioning watches. And they have selected an interesting mix, an interesting blend of usual suspects and some really rare watches. We have taken a look through most, but there's still some to go. So please feel free to send in the lot number if there is a watch that you want us to look at. You can, pardon me, you can do that with a little super chat as well. Otherwise, please feel free to hit the like button. That is always a great help, especially for a channel like this, especially for a small channel like this. It makes all the difference.
All right. Sorry about that.
Oh, no worries, man.
That was an unexpected. Semi-retirement has some surprises. That was an unexpected phone call.
Was it a good surprise at least?
No, 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 no. They never are. They never are. They're
Okay.
like, well, you hold a lot of equity, and we kind of screwed something up, so we need you to tell us what you think we should do, so you don't lose all your money.
Well, I wouldn't know much about that. So not much comment from me there. Yeah, I went through mostly the predictable stuff like the steel aquanaut that has the co-signature of Tiffany and Company, the blue dial overseas, Langewan with a dark blue dial in white gold, which is a very handsome
Beautiful watch.
watch,
Yeah, that's a beautiful watch.
but not necessarily, one of a kind, or something we haven't seen or talked together even. And then I looked at the Saxonia Dual Time, which is also a surprisingly handsome watch, and presumably a good value too if it stays within that window of $10,000 to $15,000 as well. Any other watches that you want us to look at together, Ali? I posted the link in the chat again.
Lot 20. You got a super chat for lot 20.
Oh, that's great. MCM, $20 for lot 20. Thank you so much, MCM. It's nice to see you, and thank you for the super chat. And I think this is something that will please you too. This is
I've spent a lot of time looking at this watch.
It will help me. It will help me, by the way, since it's been 2 hours already. It will help me clean my throat as well, because this is Grönefeld. I'm actually a big fan of Grönefeld watches when they use the Salmon dial, because that's clearly also a kind of wink towards their own provenance as well, since they're Dutch and orange is their national color. This is the Remontoir 1941, of course, with the constant force mechanism.
So actually, this is a question for you. Then this is you. You'll be the first person to answer this. What makes 8 seconds important to the repertoire mechanism in this case? What is it about 8 seconds that's worth calling out 8 seconds, as opposed to it's just, constant force in and of itself is a complication that is non-trivial, but as opposed to just referencing it as a constant force?
Okay, that's a very good question. A lot of times, the remontoire or the constant force mechanism is configured as a 1 second remontoire, right? Which also helps sometimes the brands. FP Journe does this, for example, to use that for deadbeat seconds or jumping seconds as well, right? And at the end of the day, basically, you have a small mechanism, in this case, another hairspring, which basically holds an extra power reserve, which it releases through regular intervals, right? If it's an 8 second remontoire, it means it gets released every 8 seconds, or at least that's my understanding. Feel free to correct it, guys, if any of you guys know um,
No, I
a
just
better
couldn't
way
figure out
to
from an
explain.
engineering standpoint what made that unique, because the constant a 1 second rewind is no less reliable, or no less accurate, I should say. It could be less reliable. I just wasn't sure what made it unique, that it's not only called out, but it's labeled on the dial. Like it's a they double down on it. I should ask Bart Grunefeld. He's actually fairly interactive. I don't know what he does for a living. He seems to spend a lot of time on social media.
So ultimately, I mean, in the remontoire, there's a second uh, spring which allows ultimately the mechanism to run at an unwavering or unvarying amount of torque. Uh, of course, the mainspring still has to remain wound, but as it winds down, um, it keeps rewinding the remontoire spring. Uh, in this case, every 8 seconds. What 8 seconds has in terms of a particular um, interval, I don't know. I don't know
Yeah,
why
that's what
that
I'm trying to
particular
figure out. And
number
they
is chosen.
at some point, I'm confident somebody explained it well, and I couldn't find it because they call it out so specifically, and won awards for it. So, in any case, continue with the watch because it's a gorgeous bloody watch. This one's a touch too small for me because I think this is 39 mil. Um, but it's a gorgeous watch.
Yeah, I don't know why 8 seconds. Why not 4? Why not 10? I remember there was a somewhat sentimental story behind it because um, I think their ancestors, including their father, um, actually were responsible a clock in their ancestral village, which has a remontoire. That, for example, is, I think, a 30-second remontoire. Um, and apparently, it has something to do with potentially um, like breaking the ice that might accumulate on it during winter time. So the minute hand jumps halfway every 30 seconds. So that has some sort of logic to it.
Mm-hmm.
Eight 1 second again comes pretty handy, both in terms of uh, keeping a certain pace and providing also as a way of pivoting a potential deadbeat seconds mechanism too. In this case, um, I don't know. Maybe it has some sort of personal significance. Again, guys, if any of you has a key to the meaning of 8 seconds, why it was chosen for this particular constant force mechanism, feel free. Um, let's continue talking about the watch. Of course, with the with I think every uh, 8 seconds you get the gears turning at 9 o'clock. I forget the technical name for what is displayed there, but that's why it is exposed there at 9 seconds every time the remontoir spring is wound. The hands have that distinctive alpha shape, heat blued. Again, the center of the dial is ever so slightly, subtly recessed and beautifully polished at the flange, and the indices are laid out on it to give it the look of a rising sun, which I think is much more evocative with this particular dial color. The 1941 refers to, I believe, the birth year of their father.
Yeah, who's adorable, by the way. If you ever see the brothers, they pose with their. They have lots of pictures. They post of them posed with their father, and it's
Yeah.
adorable.
The watch, as you said, is right under 40 millimeters, 39.5. Here, crafted out of stainless steel, 10.5 millimeters in thickness, so very classically proportioned. Uh, the remontoir mechanism, as I mentioned, is at display, on display at 9 o'clock, which you see, of course, doing its magic every 8 seconds. And the movement is hand wound with a day and a half, 36-hour power reserve at full crank. This is one of only 188 pieces, apparently. Even the circular graining of that seconds sector is quite nice. Like,
Somebody actually posted something about like the crown designs were inspired by key Dutch architecture. Like they, for a Swiss-made watch, they, aside from the obvious orange and salmon color cues, they apparently add a lot of additional little design cues.
Dutch, you meant, I think,
Yeah,
right?
Dutch. Yeah, no, for a Swiss-made watch, I was saying the Dutch, because it's still a Swiss-made watch owned by and designed by the two Dutch brothers, right? It's not made in the Netherlands.
No? What do you mean? They don't make their watches in the Netherlands?
They're always okay. I'm clearly confused about something. They're always referred to as another Swiss watch company.
No, I mean, they were trained in Switzerland. They were also kind of a product of the APRP, so to speak. Renault et Papy, the high complications workshop, much like Creubel Forcé and so many others. Um, but I think they are,
But they relocated back to the Netherlands and established
yeah,
manufacturing there.
yeah, I think it's the watches are made in Oldenzaal. I don't know the pronunciation, of course, but something like that. Yeah, of course, because I mean, I'm sure they might be even more stringent than the Swiss because the dials say made in Netherlands, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, it says handcrafted. Let me see another angle.
Yeah, I don't think that they Oldenzaal. That's where they have moved. East Holland. Do they manufacture there? Why am I'm really committed to the idea they don't manufacture there. So let me look that up. I
Please, if
need
you
a
could check
definitive
that
answer.
in the meantime, because I don't know, that would kind of shatter everything I.
Do they actually manufacture there? I'm checking because I'm damn confident I just read and it was not even a surprise that they were manufacturing nope, it says they manufacture. Well, that's interesting. They're very specific about it.
What is it? What does it say?
So the ones that they have closed the books on
Yeah.
say manufactured in Netherlands.
Okay.
The older ones that have been discontinued for like a while now, the 1 hertz, um, for example, is not specified. Neither. So the Principia is, the Delta Works is. All right, they're manufactured in Netherlands. I do not
Yeah.
know, like.
Because Principia here on the dial in the same auction, which was lot number 2, it does say the Netherlands. The Remontoir
Chronograph.
just says handcrafted, so
Yeah,
it doesn't
so
actually say Netherlands on the dial. So you might have a point, but I've always assumed they were made in the Netherlands.
so the chronograph, the Principia, the Delta Works,
Hmm.
the no, not the pair, and yeah. So the other watches, they actually don't specify. Forget the dial; it's like in the description. They don't specify on the other one. So I wonder if certain
Hmm.
parts, like maybe the tourbillon or something, or you know,
Interesting.
I don't know. Either way, so that makes it all the better for me because the Delta Works is the one that I have on the books. I love that it's made in the Netherlands now, which for whatever reason I made a mistake. Uh, huh.
Hmm.
Oldenzaal. Well, shit. All right, good with that. So you're buying this, right?
Sure. Um, yeah, it will be my nest egg, I guess. Um,
A couple more
the
super chats. You're just a few super chats away.
just a few,
Just a few super chats away.
just a few people maxing out their daily, for the next 6 months exclusively on my channel. Maybe I'll get a little bit closer.
Yeah, and after
Um,
YouTube's 40% cut or whatever.
I think the beveling and the polishing of the bridges are beautiful and have that mirror-like gloss. The piece has a stainless steel escape wheel rather, and signature solid silver bridges with their particular finish, which is frosted to kind of come full circle from XQC's Flex watch.
Oh God.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. And yeah, MCM is pretty insistent too. And again, so was I, but I'm always happy to be proven wrong. But the MCM says 100%
Yeah,
Netherlands.
I'm sending an email about it because I found the email where somebody referred to it as Swiss made, and I'm sending an email about it because I want some clarification on, is it certain models were Swiss made, or at some point they were Swiss made, because they're pretty definitive on at least 4 models that they're Dutch made. But then again, I'm curious why they're not definitive on the other models.
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting detail, and you might be onto something there. So I'm happy that you will.
Yeah, I'm
go and
emailing just to find it because they've been very responsive in recent processes, so I'm sure they will respond.
So finally, again, they made 188 of these movements. And not to say each and every piece is unique, but the buyer always had the choice of the dial and case material. This particular example combines a stainless steel case, which has, as you can see, gorgeous stepped lugs with a salmon dial, which always includes a nudge nudge, wink wink to the Dutch origin of the Groeneveld brothers. Lot 20, the Groeneveld Remontoire 1941 with the constant force mechanism, the 8-second Remontoire, has an estimated value of 60,000 to 90,000 US dollars. MCM says, Ali, I believe movements are from Andreas Strehler, who is Swiss, but finished at Groeneveld, who are Dutch. That's a good nuance there.
Yeah, I am curious. I'm just curious to get clarification on why they label some and are explicit in the descriptions of some, and obviously the same ones the dialer label. I'm just curious at this point. I'm getting one, like it's not happening. Like I have fallen so in love with Grunewald and Roman Gauthier over the past year. It just gets worse and worse and worse. It's a sickness.
Should we look at the Uhrwerk, perhaps?
Go for it. This isn't my particular. It's not one of my favorite works because it reminds me way too much of a gorilla, to be honest with you.
Okay.
And I think the Gorilla Watch folks were Urwork, weren't they, or were they AP? They spun off of one of the two, either Urwork or AP.
Gorilla Watch is the venture of what is it, Octavio Garcia, I think, who was kind of how many steps? 3 steps removed from Gérard Janta at AP. I think there's Jacqueline Dimier, there's Emmanuel Guet, and then there's Octavio Garcia. He was designing for AP for the longest time.
So yeah, it was the AP.
I think the Star Wheel might be his design at AP, though I'm not too sure.
Well, I think that's true. I'm not confident, but I think that's true because my understanding was the founder either came from Urwork or AP, and he designed the first Star Wheel of those brands.
Yeah, Uhrwerk, of course, usually privileges the story that it is between Felix Baumgartner and Martin Frey, but I'm sure they have used some other designers as well. Although I'm not particularly sure what's
I know almost nothing about her work, so like,
okay, but I don't know if Octavio Garcia was involved with Ulvek at any point in time, but I can neither confirm nor deny. This is Ur 100V iron. I believe this was a limited edition. I want to say of 25 pieces, which retailed around maybe $50,000 or so when it came out. A full metal treatment of this iconic design that has certainly not been invented by Auvergne, but has perhaps caught the hype train with their watches, the Wandering Hours complication that was perhaps first implemented to the world of wristwatches by AP's Star Wheel. As you can see, the minutes are indicated through this fan-like scale that is in the lower part of the dial, and the hour is in one of these three windows that also have their separate wheels and that make a tour around the dial, that revolve around the dial, or rather within the center dial. In Urwerk's iteration, the crown is placed at 12 o'clock, and the cases have a very futuristic look, kind of science fiction or space age look, even though the open worked industrial look of the dial itself also gives me steampunk vibes as well.
yeah, steampunk. I can see that. I can see a little bit of steampunk in there. That's I don't know that I ever saw the case back of this particular one. I really, really actually do like the Urwerk watches, generally speaking. I don't like their I like their window, I don't know how to call it, like their peekaboo watches, their window watches, more than I like their Star Wheel. Star Wheel just looks a lot like the Gorillas to me, and obviously the Gorillas are 1/25th of the price.
Yeah, well, one is hyped, one is not. I guess that's one way of putting it. This is relatively recent watch, I believe. They came out with these in 2021, I want to say. Um, um, I think the case. I like the case back actually. Um,
I do
Maybe
like the
more
case
more
back.
than more than I like the dial, I have to say.
I'm in the same boat as you on this particular watch.
I think, I can't quite figure it out and know the best way of explaining it, but I think there is, all these indicators on the outer dial, beyond the 60-minute scale, also had something to do with the Earth's rotation. Um, but I just don't remember the exact
I have no
details.
idea. It's time to go to YouTube and find a video specifically on the watch. Tim Mosso will explain to us and then also tell us it will fit a wrist up to size 82.5 centimeters.
Okay, the lot essay says something about it. Once the minute hand has completed its 60-minute journey, it reappears on a 20-minute scale at 10 o'clock, right here. Right, once it completes here, it reappears right here. And what does it do? Which represents the 555.55 kilometers the Earth rotates at the equator in that time frame. Opposite at 2 o'clock, another 20-minute scale shows the distance the Earth travels along its orbit around the Sun, approximately 35,740 kilometers every 20 minutes.
They said, forget equation of time. We're going to do something completely different, and then we're going to make it totally unreadable.
Yeah, again, its aesthetics don't appeal to me, but it's a nifty watch. And I do like this, wandering hours or satellite system or whatever you want to call it. When it's legible, I really like it. I don't know if that's the case with this Uhrwerk necessarily. This is lot 16, Uhrwerk Ur 100 V iron, one of 25 pieces, with an estimated value of 45,000 to 65,000 US dollars.
And I apologize, my attention is severely split, and my brain is not fast enough to do that. So I do need to pay
Okay.
attention to some incoming emails and kind of close this issue out. I'll pay a little bit of rent and my respects. Have a good night, and I'm sure I'm going to catch you in the next few days here as well.
All right. I'm not here tomorrow, but certainly I will see you on Thursday.
All right, I'll work for that. Take care, man.
Take care. Bye. And thank you, Ali, for joining me on the panel. It's always great talking watches with you. I'll be here for another hour, so feel free to stick around and hit the like button if you haven't done so yet. Ali Reza, who is also a member of the channel. 10:55 rent is due, and the landlord is here to accept it. Thank you kindly, Ali. Much appreciated. So let's finish up this auction. Again, if there's anything I skipped, if there's anything we covered yesterday or earlier today that you want me to jump back in and dive deep horologically and historically, feel free to send the lot number with a super chat, and I'll do my best as always. In the meantime, we're looking at lot 4. This is the Hart Davis Hart auctions, who are making their transition, making their pivoting into the scene of watches, where they have mostly done wines before. Their first auction is going to take place on August 25 in Delaware. As I mentioned previously, always take a close look at watches. Knowledge is always your most important resource. Go into viewings. If you can't make it, send someone to inspect the watches in person. You can always get great deals at auctions, especially uh, in auctions and in for pieces that fall through the cracks, but you will not be able to identify them if you are not careful enough, and you might pay dearly again if you're not careful enough and have no idea identifying what is a great example and what is barely passable. Here you're looking with for an example of the Vacheron Constantin traditionnel, the self-winding dress watch by Vacheron Constantin, here offered in a 38 millimeter, 18 carats, 5 and pink gold case, 8 millimeters of thickness. Here is a look at that movement, which has a beautifully open worked rotor weights in 22 karat gold that puts the brand's logo, the brand symbol, the Maltese cross in sharp relief. The movement is Vacheron Constantin's caliber 2455. Which carries the hallmark of Geneva. This is, by the way, the movements that is used in the new 222, Les Historiques 222, that came back in 2022 in a ever so slightly modernized yellow gold case. The piece has a beautiful guilloche dial in two-tone, off-center seconds at 9 o'clock, which have a similar two-tone execution with a taupe seconds track and a silvered center. The Dauphine hands and the gold-framed date window at 3 o'clock. The second subdial at 9 o'clock is also framed with a gold ring. And again, the pink gold case is matched in that distinctive green, which reminds you of the origin of the special edition, a limited series of 20 pieces that were offered through the iconic London retailer Harrods in 2019. The piece comes with its box and papers and offered here as lot number 4, the Vachon Constantin Traditionnel Harrods edition, one of 20, 38 millimeter pink gold case, 8 millimeters of thickness, with an estimated value of 20,000 to 30,000 in US dollars. We are looking at the Omega Speedmaster CK2998 with the blue dial. This piece runs on Omega's caliber 1861 hand wound piece, has a different build, a different design and dimensions compared to the Speedmaster Professional case, scaling right under 40 millimeters, 39.7 to be specific in diameter, and 14.4 millimeters in thickness. This particular piece has its chronograph registers, which are subtly recessed in blue, in addition to the minutes and seconds track. The centrally deployed chronograph seconds hand is a lollipop. The hands are styled in the alpha design, and they are also luminous. The bezel insert for the tachymeter follows the same blue shade of those accents on the dial, and the matching alligator strap, which is blue with medium scales and contrast stitching, also picks up the colors on the dial. Here's a look at the solid case back, which has the hippocampus logo. This piece is one of 2998. The so-called first Omega in space, since it became exactly that on the wrist of astronaut Wally Schirra. Here in the blue treatment, which is always very popular for sports watches. There also there's also kind of a panda dial with red accents of this particular Speedmaster CK2998, which has a very distinct motorsports vibe as well. Um, I'm not sure which one I like better. I think both are quite cool. This combination of opaline white and blue is also captivating in its own rights. And as lot number 8, it is offered with its box and papers and with an estimated value of 5,500 to 8,500 US dollars. Lot number 9 is a perpetual calendar chronograph by Vacheron Constantin. This is, again, their rather conservative dress watch case in platinum, rather oversized in this particular instance, 43 millimeters, right under 13 millimeters thick, which is quite reasonable for a perpetual calendar chronograph. And the slightly enlarged case size may be excused for reasons of legibility. As you guys know, the dial actually conveys quite a bit of information. This is a platinum case. One of its distinctive features is the disc for the moon phase indicator, which is fashioned out of white gold, 22 karat white gold, and detailed with an anthropomorphic moon face by hand. I think the two moon faces as part of the indicator have different expressions as well, which is quite charming. Here's a look at the movement, which is built on the base of Lemania CH27, one of the most cherished column wheel hand-wound chronograph movements of all time. A good transition, no doubt, from the Omega Speedmaster, even though that had forsaken the Omega 321, the original Moonwatch caliber, which was built from the same base as this perpetual calendar chronograph movement. Here, of course, it is finished, assembled, and regulated to the highest standards as expected by a watch that bears the Geneva hallmark. The column wheel carries the distinctive signature of the brand, the Maltese cross, which is a nice detail, to be sure, for the fans of Vacheron Constantin. A rather serious watch with its 43 millimeter platinum case. tachymeter scale on the periphery of the dial, which is like a two-tone slate gray and blue, a 30-minute totalizer at 3 o'clock, continuous running seconds at 9 o'clock, pointer dates, the pointer dates indicator surrounds the opening for the moon phase indicator at 6 o'clock. At 12 o'clock, under the signature of the brand, there are two apertures for the day of the week and the month. And above the 30-minute totalizer, there is a smaller opening for the indication of leap year. The hands are finally finished. Dauphine hands. The tachymeter is calibrated for kilometers. This is lot number 9, the Vachon Constantin traditionnel perpetual calendar chronograph 5000T in a substantive 43 millimeter platinum case with caliber 1142 QP, derived from the base of Lemania, Nouvelle Lemania CH27, along with its box and papers. The piece has an estimated value of 60,000 to 90,000 US dollars. I'm skipping over a few things here. We'll see if we have time to go over everything. If you want me to privilege something, if you want me to attend to it now, feel free to click the super chat button and send in the lot number. The link to the auction listings is there in the chat. So if you would like to take a look, feel free. I want to continue with another Vachon Constantin from their Historique series, triple calendar. Vachon Constantin, as you guys know, having been established in 1755, is the longest continuously running watch manufacturer in the entire world. And the Historique collection is perhaps one of the important ways of the brand honoring that storied legacy by reviving and also slightly reinterpreting important designs from their archive. This is the 1942 triple calendar, which shows the day and the month through the two openings under the brand signature at 12 o'clock, and the date is pointed, it is indicated with an arrow along the perimeter of the dial. There's small seconds at 6 o'clock and a railroad track for the minutes on the periphery of the dial, which actually is at once very subtle but playful enough with the variety of colors that the red arrow for the pointer dates, the heat blued hands for the hour and minutes, and the distinct accents for The sector for the date provides Arabic numerals for the hour markers, and the distinctive spider lugs complete the picture for the brand's vintage inspired triple calendar. The movement, of course, is built on that base of 4400, masterfully executed and competently finished hand wound movement that carries the hallmark of Geneva. This is lot 17, Vachon Constantin Historique 1942, triple calendar 3110V. The case is 40 millimeters out of stainless steel, 10.35 millimeters thick. From 2018, this particular example is from 2018. It includes box and papers and has an estimated value of 12,000 to 18,000 in US dollars. Lot 18 is a Jaeger-LeCoultre Memovox limited edition from a few years back. The rotating disc at the center of the dial has a red-tipped arrow which indicates the alarm setting. The alarm function is activated, or rather set, by using the additional crown at 2 o'clock. The double crown design endows the watch with an interesting sense of balance, which, in my humble opinion, is interrupted here by the date window at 3 o'clock. They would have been served much better with just having Arabic numerals at the quarters. Otherwise, you have a stunning execution of a two-tone blue dial with sunburst effects on the hour track and a lighter blue shade that encircles both the center of the dial and the outer track for the minutes and seconds. The medium scale alligator strap also plays along with that theme in shades of blue. The case back is treated with a sapphire crystal to exhibit the movement, which is self-winding with skeletonized full gold rotor weight, which has the brand's JL logo at the center in sharp relief. This particular example, in stainless steel with the two-tone blue dial, was produced around 2020, I think in about 250 examples at lot 18. As lot 18, it comes with its box and papers. This is the Chez-le-Coutre Master Control Memovox limited edition in stainless steel with the two-tone blue dial. The estimated value, the pre-auction estimate, is 11,000 to 17,000 US dollars. Lot 21 is one of my favorite versions of Chapek's Antarctique. This is the Rattrapante. It is the brand's signature sports watch. As a split-second chronograph with an open work dial. As you guys know, column wheel chronographs are perhaps most deserving of this sort of treatment, all the more so when they are split-second chronographs. As you can see, you can glance at this vertical axis, both the column wheel for the primary chronograph function as well as the split seconds function. At around 4 o'clock, you have the 30-minute totalizer, which has its own open work treatments, and the continuous running seconds at around 8 o'clock. All the hands are heat blued in the silver gray execution, and the hands for the hour and minutes is actually given a luminous treatment as well. I believe the split second chronograph hand is rhodium plated and has a red tip, which is matched at 60 on the seconds track. This particular example is actually presented on the rubber strap, but the package actually includes the full matching stainless steel bracelet as well, not to mention the box, the original box and papers. The case is 42.5 millimeters, and it is slightly over 15 millimeters thick. The silver gray was produced as a limited edition in 77 pieces. And I believe the chronograph movement, the split seconds chronograph movement, was made for Chapek by Onod, which is specialist developer of complications based in Le Locle, founded by Jean-François Mojon, who has previously done work for MBNF, Harry Winston, specifically for Opus 10, as well as Oben Jorgensen and others. This is a self-winding movement with a full rotor, unlike the micro rotor movements of the time and date version of the Antarctique. But as you can see, the skeletonized oscillating weight takes its design cues from the skeletonized finger bridges of the SXH 6 caliber SXH6 of the original Antarctique. I think this is probably the most beautiful and most impressive watch from Chapec's Antarctique collection. Certainly my favorite, and it must be Xavier's favorite as well, because the CEO wears this watch basically all the time. This is the Chapec Antarctique split seconds chronograph, Rattrapante silver gray, one of only 77 pieces in stainless steel, presented here on its rubber strap, but comes also on its integrated full bracelet, 42.5 millimeters in diameter and 15.3 millimeters in thickness. As lot 21, the piece has a pre-auction estimate of 40,000 to 60,000 US dollars. We're entering the last 20 minutes of our broadcast today, of our live stream today. Please do not hesitate to hit the like button. That helps a great deal. Feel free to share the links to my videos. There's already a significant archive of videos that are around 15 minutes that are open to public access. Of course, the members have access to much more. So feel free to test out that function as well. 3 new videos are uploaded as exclusive content every week. 3 additional videos that give you pointers in the markets, but from a historical and horological perspective. So even though they refer to specific watches and particular deals, they remain rather evergreen. Jake Brooks, JB, if he's still in the audience, he can tell you a little bit more about the membership, or rather about the value he gets out of the membership. And feel free to at least make sure that you remain open to accepting gifts on this channel, because some of my followers are generous enough to give such memberships as gifts. So you might be able to grab one or two in due time. But at $4.99, the entry level, I think, is already a compelling proposition. So I have, I think, maybe just a couple left already. So I will go through them from end to the beginning and close with that. Lots number 29 is Alangonzune Langematic Perpetual. This is the Lange Perpetual calendar with a self-winding caliber. In a 38.5 millimeter platinum case and slightly over 10 millimeters in height, 10.2 millimeter in thickness. It is built on the base of L9221, the Zaxomat movement, with the oversized off-center micro rotor, which gives the movement a very distinctive look that is quite stunning in its panoply of colors and distinguished finishes. This is certainly a delight. The old school off-center oversized micro rotor of the Zaxomat in gold with its multi-layered and frosted finish and the supplemental platinum weight, not to mention the heat blued screws, but of course the rubies sitting in gold chaton, the swan neck regulator, and the free-hand engraved balance cock. Beautiful circular graining on the base plate in its various levels, and the broad strokes of glashütte ribbing on the bridge plates. The Langematic Perpetual, actually in its early generation, had the distinctive 10 o'clock pusher for the correction of the dates. But since they were often offered with the déployant buckles and the users often put their watches in a way to engage that corrector unwillingly, that was later removed from the design. But that's no significant loss, if you ask me, from the perspective of coherent or cohesive design in this particular sense. You still have the oversized dates at 12 o'clock, which is counterbalanced by a subsidiary dial for the seconds, which surrounds the aperture for the moon phase indicator at 6 o'clock. You have the indicator for the months at 3 o'clock, which surrounds, or rather, which includes the leap year indicator as well. It points the month with a luminous arrow. At 9 o'clock, the day of the week is pointed with a luminous alpha hand as well. And there's an additional 24-hour hand, which in an inner circle, in a concentric circle, serves as a day-night indicator as well. The hour and minute hands are in the alpha style and also filled with luminous material. There's a railroad track for the minutes and Roman numerals for the hour markers. The center of the dial is slightly recessed, and so are the variety of subsidiary dials on this beautifully complicated watch, which gives you a lot of depth, even though what you have is a rather elegant layout on the face of this distinguished timepiece. Lot number 29. This is the A Lange und Söhne Langematic Perpetual in a 38.5 millimeter platinum case with the Zaxomat L922-1 movements with the oversized micro rotor. The piece comes with its original papers and has a pre-auction estimated value of 30,000 to 45,000 US dollars. Good night, Andrew. Take care. Nice to see you as well. We are slowly coming to the end. I have about 10 minutes, so please hit the like button if you haven't already. I think I will have time to discuss probably 2 more watches, and after that, we are probably done. Lot number 7 is the Panerai Radiomir 1940 Art Deco. This is the PAM 791. The distinctive cushion case, which is derivative of those early Oyster waterproof cases that were supplied to Officine Panerai by Rolex. 47 millimeters here with a cream dial, which has a distinct hour track with Art Deco numerals for the markers. Again, the dial is given a nice depth with a copper toned track for the minutes, and again a similar frame for the center of the dial. The beating heart of the watch is the hand wound P3000. This is a limited edition, which was launched in 2018, one of only 300 pieces. That hand-wound caliber P3000 has a 3-day power reserve when it's fully wound by hand. And the dial apparently takes its inspiration from an antique pendulum clock previously retailed at Orologeria Svizzera, which is a renowned watch and clock shop in Florence owned by the Panerai family. PAM 791, one of 300 pieces with the Art Deco dial in a polished stainless steel cushion case, a limited edition, one of 300, offered here as lot number 7 with its original box and papers, and an estimated value of 4,500 to 6,500 in US dollars. Interesting. We have a Sprite at lot 10. This is the Destro GMT Master 2, which was introduced out of the blue at Watches and Wonders 2022. Has not been discontinued just yet. Entered the secondary markets with a bang, currently in its whimpering stage. It has initially faced a lot of puzzlement, if also kind of an excitement as well. Certainly wasn't the first quote unquote left-handed GMT master that the brand ever produced. But in flipping not only the crown, but also the date indicator to 9 o'clock, and doing that in serial production, it certainly marked a first for the brand. This is the GMT Master reference 126720 VTNR, vert noir, the green and black bezel. On the oyster bracelet with polished center links. From last year, this piece comes with its papers and the original purchase receipt that is dated to last year. Lot number 10, the Rolex GMT Master reference 126720 VTNR. It has an estimated value of 16,000 to 24,000 US dollars. Last but not least, we are looking at lot number 6, which is Sarpaneva X Umin. Sarpaneva is a Finnish brand, which is rather known for its distinctive designs, both in terms of its case and the dial. This particular piece is a collaboration between the brand and the Finnish author and artist Tove Jansson. The watch thus aims to be a celebration of Nordic storytelling, artistry, and watchmaking excellence. It has Sarpaneva's distinctive stainless steel Outokumpu case, 42 millimeters in diameter and 11.4 millimeters in thickness, with the crown placed at 4 o'clock, with the distinct notches carved out to give an edge to the otherwise round case design. Here is the open worked or perforated case back, which gives you a peek onto the modified Soprod movements. Soprod A10 self-winding. The watch integrates Sarpaneva's signature moon phase display as well, with the moon and stars peeking through the clouds on the dial of the watch. This particular piece includes the original box as well as a copy of Moomin Summer Madness by the artist Tove Jansson, whose artwork inspires the hand painted scenes depicted on the dial. This is the Sarpaneva X Moomin 42 millimeters by 11.4 in stainless steel, running on a modified Soprod A10 self-winding movement. The piece has an estimated value of 11 to 17,000 US dollars. Thank you again for everything. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for listening today. Special thanks to Jake Brooks for his generous donation. He's a member of the channel as well. Thank you also, MCM, for your super chats. Ali Reza, thank you for being part of my panel tonight and for your super chats, and also for being a member and consistent supporter of this channel. Thank you so much, everybody. If you would like to support the channel in other ways, you can always try the membership, which is only $4.99 and includes lots of exclusive contents, a lot of more narrative, detailed but also condensed videos from which you will learn a lot. Please feel free to check that out. Hit the like button on the way out. If you would like to support my work in other ways, I'm pasting the links now in the chat and pinning them now. They're also going to be in the crawling ticker as I sign off. I will be with you on Thursday, unless something comes up during the day tomorrow. I'm busy at night, but I will be back with you on Thursday for sure. I look forward to seeing you then. In the meantime, feel free to write to me at my email address, which is attached to this channel, and to my PayPal account as well. And that's youngbrando.wns@gmail.com. youngbrando.wns, that's watches and style, at gmail.com. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, wear your watches and enjoy them. Take care, guys.